Morning, my teenagers. Another beautiful morning. And on this morning, I want to welcome you all to Egypt. So you can see the background there. Go ahead and take a seat. And if you can't find a seat, I'll ask my friends over here. I'll ask these two guys to give you a seat on their camels. Welcome to another class, guys, and you'll see really quickly, if you studied the class, you'll see why we got this background. So today's class is class number 5. We got a story about Joseph. So let's open up in prayer. Dear God, we give you thanks for one more day. I praise you for watching over us and protecting us. I ask that you give us wisdom to understand your words here, understanding, dear God, to live it out in our lives. I praise you and I thank you, and I ask that we be more like Joseph that we're going to study on this morning. In your son's name, amen. All right, so we got Joseph, a type of Christ, un tipo de Cristo, the perfect man. So Joseph was by no means a perfect man. There's no man in the Bible that was a perfect man. But he did things pretty great. Who they're talking about being a perfect man is Jesus Christ. But in this story, they're comparing Joseph because he had a lot of really good qualities, and God used him. God used him to save the people that were in that time, that were living in that time, in the same way that Jesus Christ saved all of humanity. So there were some people there who Joseph helped save, but Jesus saved everybody, okay? So the main idea in this story, guys, so it says Joseph's life serves as an inspiration in relation to the piety God expects from believers in Christ. So I expect you guys to understand pretty much every word there except for piety. Piety is a little bit of a different word. So piety means dedication or devotion to doing God's will. Okay? So to doing God's will. Devotion or dedication to doing God's will, to doing what the right thing is based on what God requires of us. Okay? So the golden text, it says, and Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one is this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God. And of course, Pharaoh was the king of the entire land, and he's talking about Joseph. Joseph, who wasn't even an Egyptian. Joseph was a Hebrew, right? An Israelite. But he reached such a level, and we're going to take a look at why, right? So if you guys haven't seen it before, I urge you guys to go and watch it, right? If you guys want a really good movie, a movie that is a godly movie, but is a really interesting movie as well, check out Joseph, King of Dreams. Joseph, King of Dreams, and you're going to see the story of Joseph in there, all right? So let's take a look at these verses. Genesis 37:2, it says, this is the history of Jacob, Joseph, being 17 years old. So really quickly, so this is the story, this is the history of Jacob. Jacob was the dad of Joseph, okay? So we'll keep going. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. So these are his brothers. They just have a different mom, okay? It says, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father, right? So a lot of people might say, oh, Joseph was being a tattletale because it looks like his brothers had done something wrong, and Joseph came and told his father about what his brothers had done. Maybe Joseph had already tried to correct them, and they hadn't listened, because you guys know, being the youngest one, you try to correct somebody, they're not going to listen to you if you're the younger one, the majority of the times. But if you show them an example, a lot of the times they still may not listen to you, but they'll respect you for it, and they might begin doing things the way you're doing them. But ultimately, Joseph came and told his dad. So Joseph, one thing that we can note is that Joseph was already trying to do the right thing, even at 17 years old, right? Um, you guys are a little younger. Some of you guys are a little older, but take the example of already trying to do the right thing at a young age, okay? So it says, now Israel loved Joseph. I'm in verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children because he was the son of his old age. What does that mean? So Joseph or Jacob had Joseph he was old. He was old already. So when Joseph was born, Jacob was old. And because of that, he loved Joseph more. And that's a bad answer, right? So that shouldn't happen. Parents shouldn't love kids more than another. You guys remember that from when you guys are parents. Don't do that because it's going to create problems between the siblings. Okay. So going on in verse 3, that second half, it says, also he made him a tunic of many colors, right? And you can see a picture of it here. A tunic, basically it's just a coat that they used to wear, or a robe. Actually, in this picture right here, you can kind of see the guy sitting on the camel. He's wearing actually what a tunic is. But Jacob had made Joseph one of many different colors, which actually set him apart from his brothers, which again is another bad answer. Um, it wasn't the wisest thing a parent could have done, because here's the youngest one that should really be the honor of the oldest brother, but he's making it for him. So um, we just got to be careful in the things that we do. So and then verse 4 says, but when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. So it created problems between the brothers. But we're gonna see in the later part of this story. And in Romans 8:28, it says, God uses all things for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. Guys, all of us are called according to his purpose. You guys are called according to his purpose. The key is that we love him. And guys, focus on this. It says he uses all things for good, even the bad things. So even these things where his brothers could not speak peaceably to him. And it says it was so bad that they hated him, guys. That is tough, all right? So verse 5, it says, now Joseph had a dream. Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So it doesn't say here the dreams, guys, but if you watch that movie, or if you read chapter 37, it'll tell you those dreams. So basically, these guys were farmers, and they used to collect grain, and they used to bunch it all up and tie it all up, and these were called sheaves, right? Sheaves of grain. And the dream that Joseph had, basically, they were all in the field and they were collecting the sheaves, and the sheaves of grain, they all of his brother's sheaves and his mom and his dad's sheaves, they all bowed down to his sheaf of grain, right? So his brothers were like, what? So what? So we're all gonna bow down to you? So then he had another dream, and in that dream, the sun, who was his dad, and the moon, who was his mom, and the stars, who were his brothers, they all bowed down to him. And again, so like they were all saying, hey, so what's the deal? We're all gonna bow down to you. It's not bad enough that you're already the favorite son, but now we're all also gonna bow down to you. So it got even worse, right? And they just really didn't like him. So the story jumps then to chapter 39. It says 39:1. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. So basically, his brothers hated him so bad that they said they would pretend that he had been killed, and they sold him. This is how bad it got, guys. They sold him. If you can imagine your family selling you, it does happen, guys. But I trust that none of this won't happen to you guys. But just trust that that no matter what happens, guys, God works all the things for the good. But basically, they sold him. He was sold as a slave, sold out of his land, and they brought him to this place that you see in the background, to Egypt. You guys see those cool pyramids in the background. Um, so let's keep on going on. So it says, now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. And it came to pass that after all these things, that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, lie with me. So what is she asking? She's asking him, guys, to have relationships, to have a relationship with him, to kiss him, and to be with him, right? So it says, but he refused, and he said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in the house. So basically, he does not does not care. He does not so basically Joseph is telling his wife, hey, my master, he trusts me in everything. My master, oh, and he has committed all that he has to my hand, right? There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So he did not care about sinning to others. He wanted to do the right thing, but it was more important for Joseph to not sin against God than to do any other bad thing, right? So we're jumping now to chapter 41:37. It says, so the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. So what happened between that last chapter and this chapter? Potiphar's wife said that Joseph had been trying to take advantage of her, and he was taken prisoner. He was taken prisoner into Pharaoh's jail, but God still protected Joseph, and he was able to come out of prison when he was able to interpret a dream that Pharaoh had, right? So now he becomes this royal in Pharaoh's house, right? He becomes important again in Pharaoh's house. So you guys can see here, he had been taken as a slave. He was bought by Potiphar, and he became really important in Potiphar's house. But the thing happened with Potiphar's wife, where she lied to Potiphar. Joseph was taken as a prisoner, right? But then he had a dream, and he was called by the Pharaoh, the king of all of Egypt, and he was made into a really important person in Pharaoh's kingdom. He was the second in command, and we're going to read that, right? So you guys can see all these bad things happen to Joseph, but Joseph continued to be faithful to God, and God used each one of those bad things to put him in an even more important place. So you guys can think about it like that. You guys stay tied to God at all times. You guys stay committed to God, praying to God, reading God's Bible. And every bad thing that happens, guys, mark my words, God is going to use them to glorify himself. God is going to use them to give you an even better thing, right? So people freak out every time something bad happens. And that's okay. That's okay, because none of us want bad things to happen. But each time one of those bad things happens, look around the corner, because God is going to use those bad things to make an even better thing happen. Mark my words. Okay? So all right. So here we go. So chapter 41:37, it says, So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, in the eyes of all his servants. So what was happening now? There was a drought. All the food was running out, and basically, or all the food was gonna run out. So Joseph said, "Hey, listen, this is what you need to do. You need to save up food for the bad years." Okay, and the advice was good in Pharaoh's eyes, right? And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this?" So can we find a man like this, basically? A man in whom is the Spirit of God, okay? So they recognized that God was with Joseph, okay? And they served a bunch of different gods, but they recognized that something was different in this man, okay? And it was all because God was with him and because he served God, right? So verse 39, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word." Guys, listen to the level that he got to. Hebrews, Israelites were considered slaves, were considered poor, were considered beggars, were considered a second-class citizen to everybody else. But God was with Joseph because Joseph served God so closely that Pharaoh said this to him: "There is no one like you," right? "There is no one like you. You shall rule over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." He made him second in command, right? And even then, he told them, "Hey, listen, not even the things that I say, you shall rule my kingdom," right? "The only thing that I will be greater to you is that I still sit on the throne. But basically, you're going to rule over the entire kingdom." How special is that, guys? That's pretty awesome. So, guys, in this story, basically, a bunch of tough things happen. And I know that tough things happen in our lives. Tough things happen in your guys' lives. I know that you guys have tears at times. I know that things get tough, right? But just like Joseph, stay committed to God. Stay close to God. And God is going to use each and every one of those things for his good. Again, Romans 8:28 says, in all things, even in the bad ones, God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And that is definitely you guys, right? Even in each one of those bad things, like I said, look around the corner because God has something good lined up. Okay, so I love you guys. God bless you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this class. I hope you guys enjoyed it here in the background with Egypt. I hope you guys get to go there one day and check out those pyramids and ride those camels in the background. But guys, basically the main thing about this is that Joseph was able to save all these people with the advice. So there was a drought, and in that drought, he was able to advise the Pharaoh, "Hey, listen, we need to save up some food because there's a drought that is coming, a famine that is coming. There's going to be no food." And through that, they were able to save up food for when there wasn't any food. And basically, that is how Egypt became really, really rich. People came from all over the place trying to buy food from them. And through that, he was able to save his family. His family was able to come into Egypt, and God used all of those bad things for the good. He reconciled with his brothers, and he was able to see his father again after a long period of time. So God used all these bad things for good. And how? Because Joseph was committed to God. Okay, so we stay committed to God, and God is going to use all those bad things for good and use us to save people. Okay, so I love you guys. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.